handle the truth. Good
morning, beautiful people. We are live.
Good morning, Grand Risings. It's time to wake up with Sonia Poulton.
Good morning, Grand Risings. It's time to wake up with Sonia Poulton. And guess it is Monday, the 17th of February, 2025, exactly 9 a.m. GMT. How are you all, you beautiful, glorious, gorgeous people? How are you? God, it's freezing here. What is it like where you are? Wow, that woke me up. Good. Great to hear it. Good morning, Charlotte and Teresa and Armand and Diana and Marco and Randy and Finbar and Silly Says and Gwyneth and Colin, lovely Colin, who sent us a tune. He sent us a tune. Colin, I haven't had time to put it to an image, but I am going to play it on Friday. And I loved your email, sweetheart. I loved your email and I totally agreed with it. And it touched my heart. And you mentioned my brother. And I hope you're all right. And good morning, Maria and Katie and John from Coventry and Mickey the Mouse and Abster and Carly. Yes, Carly, I heard that, right? Great news about my Dazzlem. 5-day inquiry set for 17th of March. 7 nurses and 4 doctors are set to give evidence. This could be game-changing, Carly, couldn't it? It really could. And good morning, Jem. Jem is watching live for a change. Great start to half-term holiday. Wonderful to hear it. And good morning, Miss Sleepover. Baltic in Edinburgh, I bet. Oh, I bet. I love Edinburgh, but boy, Edinburgh is chilly when it's chilly. Oh, it really is. Thank you, Judith. No. A lot of my clothes are my ex-TV clothes that I used to wear. And this was one of my TV jackets. Not new at all. I'm average, but that's good enough. Kevin, you're far from average. Good morning, Merv. How are you? And Tara. And Marlena, beautiful Marlena. How are you all? Hello and welcome to Wake Up. Today, if you didn't know, is Random Acts of Kindness Day. Now, unlike all the other similar days, such as the most miserable day of the year, this one, on the face of it, seems to be something good for the sake of something good, which is lovely. Not trying to flog a holiday after Christmas or flooding the market with plastic hearts and cheap chocolates, but doing something nice because, well, just because you want to, not because there will be a return. And it was created by the Random Acts of Kindness Foundation with the intention of encouraging more harmony and kindness between people by offering thoughtful gestures of kindness, no matter how big or small. If nothing else, I think there is actually value to this day, oddly enough. It could impact positively on individuals who are feeling a bit low. I love Random Acts of Kindness. I absolutely do. They touch my heart. Good morning. Beasley said, how is everyone? JD Vance says to Metropa. Oh, I'm going to be talking about JD Vance. Oh, yes, I am. Don't you worry. How is everyone? So what's on Wake Up today? So yes, don't forget, Random Act of Kindness. Do something, no matter how big or small. Even if it's just walking up to somebody and make sure it's somebody you know, because the danger is, even though I walk up to strangers in the streets and just go, oh, I think you look fabulous today. It's not necessarily advisable. But why don't you tell somebody that you know or love how great they are? That's a random act of kindness. Grand risings to you all. Good morning, John. Good morning, John. What's on Wake Up today? Well, guess former senior Met officer COLIN SUTTON will be joining us, often referred to as the UK's most famous cop. He'll be joining us to talk about the legality or otherwise of the British riot arrest. So many question marks over that period in time, isn't there? We'll also be joined by Pete Stone of the Sovereign Project. He'll be talking to us about our rights and how to defend them. Plus, the JD Vance speech in Munich. Zelensky's nose has been put out of joint. Marshko, I missed you too. You've been busy, have you? Blackmailing Kanye West, which appears to be starting. Oh, yes, indeed. And then there's Musk. Elon Musk apparently has a new child, a 13th child, with what looks like an Israeli asset. And what's happening with American talk show host Wendy Williams? Some of you might not be familiar with her, but I've known of Wendy for a very, very long time. She started off in hip hop just like I did. And actually, Wendy was one of the very first people to tell tales on people like Diddy. And we'll also be looking at the Firehouse on Fire, Chiltern Firehouse. Couldn't have its BAFTA awards party there last night. And World Wildlife Fund, failing animals. How shocked are we? And as we've just discovered in the comments, next month, a coroner will examine the end of life care during C19 with my Dazzlem. Over 50 families so far are making claims regarding this. And I want to end the show on outrage fatigue and how to stop it. Plus all the usual good stuff, viewer emails, live chat. We do news differently around here. And you know why? Because someone had to. Oh, yes, indeed. Someone had to. And let's see what's going on. Parliament is in recess, by the way, just because it's a school holiday. It shouldn't mean that every time the school breaks up, Parliament breaks up, right? How many holidays do MPs actually need? They returned from 2 weeks off for Christmas on January the 6th. They worked until last Thursday, February the 13th, and now they are off until the 24th of February. Then they'll have 2 weeks off for Easter in April, a week off for May Day. Yes, a week off for May Day. Another week for Whitsun in May, and the summer holidays, which are always the longest and are yet to be confirmed. When MPs do return on the 24th of February, on the agenda is a petition debate, an e-petition debate, which relates to a minimum age for social media. Yes, shout out for the Welsh what, Hamish? Talk to me. Greetings all, curly crew. Yes, Wendy is a whole other topic. She really is, and we'll be getting into it. What's YouTube doing? Playing games. I had no notification and you're not showing us live, says Make All Well Fiction again. You can't make this up. Lisa has to go at 10. We'll catch up later. Love the chat and crew. Make the show. Yes, indeed, indeed, indeed. Right. Meantime, we're hearing that a UK DOGE, similar to what Elon Musk is doing in the US, has been set up by the Home Office. I want to bring in somebody who's become involved with this. The DOGE will be led by Home Office Minister Lord Hanson and Damian McBride, a former key aide to Gordon Brown. DOGE UK, the aim is to cut waste and cut costs. This marks a significant change from previous policy where only contracts over 5 million required ministerial sign-off. And now there will be weekly meetings which will review every contract. The unit held its first meeting last Wednesday, according to sources. Now, let me backtrack a little bit here for those who may not be familiar with Damian McBride. He's at the front here with Gordon Brown. He was part of the Smeargate scandal. He was forced to quit as Gordon Brown's key aide in 2009 when it was revealed that he had sent emails proposing sex smear campaigns which targeted top Tories. This included rumours about the private lives of David Cameron and his wife, Samantha. The email, this is also where it gets interesting, the emails were exchanges with Labour blogger Derek Draper, in which the two discussed setting up a website to air these scurrilous allegations about opponents, including unfounded allegations about affairs between leading opposition MPs. This was the Derek Draper who was married to Kate Garraway, was said to have long COVID and later died. But Derek Draper filled the British TV screens during C19. His wife, Kate Garraway, presents Good Morning Britain. And honestly, it was almost like only one person in the UK should be considered during C19. That was Derek Draper and his missus. So that's two people. So that's an idea of who Damian McBride, the man who has been chosen by the Home Office to scrutinise spending and contracts. This man. And Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, established the unit after she discovered that the department had allocated 3 million over 3 years for digital graphics and filming from a Soho-based PR agency. They also discovered an additional 100,000 had been earmarked for leadership training. Leadership training for MPs. Are you having a bloody laugh? Are they having a laugh? And grand risings to you, Peter. The cover up is on, says Jackie. It is indeed. Jackie, have you got your mug? Have you got your mug? We sent out a new mug to you. Well, I didn't actually. Lovely Susanna did. But have you got it, Jack? And how are you all, people? How are you all today? I'm going to be welcoming our first guest very, very shortly. But I just want to say this. The murders of 3 young girls in Southport in July 2024. Let me take this image off the screen. In July 2024 was the spark that lit the flame of a simmering anger that many people in the UK have regarding uncontrolled immigration. People took to social media and to the streets to express their anger, their hurt, their frustration. And new Prime Minister Keir Starmer took swift and brutal action against many people. Recently, former Marine Jamie Mitchell was unanimously acquitted in 17 minutes by a jury after pleading not guilty. And maybe you've seen his image. Let me just show you who we're referring to here. This is Jamie Mitchell. And he pleaded not guilty to a Facebook video he made following Southport. And my guest is a man frequently referred to as the UK's most famous cop. His work speaks for itself. He was the man who brought to book serial murderer Levi Belfield. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined today by COLIN SUTTON. Welcome, COLIN. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Sonia. How are you? Nice to see you again.
Really wonderful to have you with us, COLIN. Some real true experience who can bring some common sense to this. We had what appeared to be a summer of madness. And Jamie Mitchell was an interesting one of the very few people who wasn't actually imprisoned for either his Facebook posts or so-called rioting out on the streets. And I saw you'd made a comment about it, and it was regarding an interview you'd seen with Jamie and Bev Turner. And you said that it touched on what might be the biggest scandal of last summer's social media trials. How were so many people persuaded to plead guilty to offences when it was in fact very doubtful they had committed them? Take it away, COLIN. What did you mean by that?
Well, first of all, I should say, just to be clear, you know, people who throw rocks at police officers, people who push burning bins into hotels, they're criminals. They deserve
Absolutely.
My view is that voicing your opinions on social media rarely ought to be criminal. That's where I come from. Now, what I've seen is Jamie obviously was lucky in the sense that he pleaded not guilty. He went for a trial and was acquitted in short order. The thing that worries me is that I think, you know, solicitors who are called in to advise these people when they've been arrested for social media posts have a duty to do the best for their clients and get the best outcome for their client. And if you're working then within a culture or a context of knowing that the courts are going to deal with these things in a very heavy-handed way because some pressure has been put on or some memo's been sent or whatever, then it could be that your best advice to them would be, well, if you plead guilty, you'll get a discount for that. If you plead not guilty and you do get convicted, you're going to go to prison for a longer time. And where I feel that may have crossed a line in some sense is where, you know, take Lucy Connolly, for instance. I think that's the most egregious
example.
I mean, she tweeted something that was very unpleasant. It may well have been racist. She owned that, admitted that herself, said, if this makes me racist, so be it. But the things that she was saying, she suffixed with the phrase, for all I care. And she somehow pleads guilty to inciting racial hatred. Now, I don't think that saying for all I care can conceivably be construed as meaning to be inciting others to do it. Basically, what you're saying is if others did it, then I don't care. But that's you know, nobody's going to read that and think I've got to go out and do whatever she says. So that was the one that really kind of triggered it with me, was looking at the fact, well, I don't think those words that she used necessarily are capable of forming the offence,
right?
And if that's the case, then why does she plead guilty to something that she, on prima facie, plainly hasn't done, and get imprisoned for it? And that was sort of was the thing that sent the spark in me. And you know, I know a few people, sort of thing, you know, from over my years and doing what I did, and it seems that there was a feeling that the best thing that some of these people could do was plead guilty, get the discount for that, because otherwise they were going to be in real trouble. And I just think we've got people who have admitted to criminal offences, perhaps their first criminal offences in their life, for things that they have posted on Facebook or Twitter or X, or whatever we call it this week. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. You know,
a terrible situation. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was talking about this last week on here, actually, that this woman had posted something on social media. And when I read it, arguably it was defamatory. So that's obviously civil. That's not criminal. But she was encouraged by a solicitor to accept a police caution. I said, what? That's going to stay on your record. And this is the problem, isn't it? And sorry, I think I said Jamie Mitchell, but it's Jamie Michael. And it's interesting what happened there at Merthyr Tydfil Crown Court. Colin, just 17 minutes, less time than it took for the prosecution's opening argument. The jury acquitted him, and because he was like, no, I am facing this head on. I am not guilty. And so really the situation is too many people, it would appear. Do you think it was for expediency, Colin, or something else?
I'm benign enough in my thoughts to hope that it was actually solicitors feeling that was going to give the best outcome for their client, because they appreciated there was a climate whereby if you went to court at that time, because of the publicity and because of the pronouncements made by the Prime Minister and so on, that you were going to get really, really harshly treated. And of course, you know, if you elected for a summary trial in front of a district judge or a magistrate, then there's no control over that. I mean, Jamie went to a jury, and I think, you know, that would be the best advice, because juries hopefully are taken from the general public and a representative of the public view. And I think a great many of the public don't actually feel that this business of voicing opinions, even if they're bad opinions, even if they're opinions which offend, should be criminalized. You know, and I feel really strongly about that. I think if you're using social media as a tool to bully or to put down or to attack individuals, then there's a case for saying that somebody should intervene. If you're using social media to organize or incite violence or terrorism or anything like that, then of course the criminal law should intervene. But if you're just using it as a way to vent your feelings and to give your opinion, you know, you put your opinion on social media. If you disagree with that opinion, then say so, and then end up blocking somebody or whatever. That's what it is. It's you don't have to engage. But is it really something, you know, if somebody's saying, look, I'm so fed up about this, I think this is the end of the road, for all I care, set lights to a lot of them, or words to that effect, which is what Lucy Connolly said. Do we really need to go to prison for saying that? Is that really inciting others to do it? I think not.
No, exactly. And the thing is, what we know about James is it was a political scenario behind it, because it was actually sparked by the Welsh office of Labour MP Buffy Williams, who reported the video to the office, one of her aides. And so we absolutely know that was a political scenario. It wasn't a member of the public that had a problem with it. This was a political scenario. And that seems to be the situation here, because as you say, I mean, Colin, I've talked a lot to my neighbours, to loads of people about what's gone on last summer. And absolutely, the vast majority of people are saying, yeah, that was really unpleasant what was written, but it shouldn't have resulted in a jail term. And the thing is, Colin, you know, you've been on the front line. I mean, you've done some amazing sterling work, you know, including being the man who eventually nailed Levi Belfield, you know, murderer Levi Belfield. You absolutely know what it's like out there. And you also know what's going on in prisons. They had to turf people out of prisons in order to be able to accommodate the new influx of people. What must you have thought about that when you know what real crime is really about?
Well, what I thought instantly came to pass very quickly, that those people that were turfed out shouldn't have been turfed out, because they were going to offend very quickly, and many of them did. You know, it's a use of the criminal law and the machinery of the criminal justice system for a political purpose. And I think that's a slippery slope, you know. And the trouble is, we've seen politicians all over the world, particularly across the Atlantic, decide that the way to attack opponents is to use the criminal law. And I'm not sure that's actually what it's there for and what we want it for. Yes, if people fiddle their expenses, or they commit sexual assaults, or all the various other things that our politicians seem to get up to most days of the week, then yes, that's an issue for the criminal law. But using it so that your political opponents are disabled, I think it's a slippery slope. But that's where we are.
Exactly. And the thing is, the solicitor, Jamie's solicitor, wrote to the CPS prior to the trial, urged the CPS to drop the case, was totally ignored. So again, the CPS have a role in this as well, obviously, don't they? I mean, I'm not necessarily asking you to, advise what can be done in the long term, but something has gone seriously wrong that we are criminalizing free speech in this way. And it appears to be if you oppose the government.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing. If it were a blanket kind of ban, I wouldn't want a blanket ban on free speech across the board, but of course, but yeah, it depends. If you're I think we're criminalizing the wrong thought rather than just thought. That's
selective criminalizing, is it? Is that what's going on? But of course, it raises the broader question, which you have raised. And the fact is, there are people who are still in prison right now. One is dead, Peter Lynch. Peter Lynch held a banner that of the contents of which, for the most part, I absolutely agreed with. And that is, there is a problem with the World Economic Forum. There is a problem with bankers. There is a problem with censorship. And Peter Lynch is now dead. And the broader question it raises, and that is, if people had not pleaded guilty, how many of them would not now be jailed? We don't know the answer, do we?
No, we don't, and that's why I said in that post I put that I think that this could turn out, in hindsight, to be the biggest scandal of the whole thing. Is that we've got people pleading guilty to offences which, in ordinary circumstances, no lawyer on earth would advise them to plead to.
When you saw all that happening last summer, I mean, I really like to get inside of your head and just kind of get an idea of what your thoughts were, because it all happened so quickly. Suddenly we had a former DPP who was Prime Minister, and he appeared to be still acting like a DPP, Colin. What were your thoughts about Starmer's swift actions?
I thought that the contrast between that, his performance then, and the way in which the government reacted to the last lot of rioting we had in 2011, was it? I think.
Yes, it was August 2011.
Was markedly different, and the marked difference was there was and has still been no concession, no mention of the fact that actually these people that were rioting had a point that we need to address. That was done very swiftly in 2011. And, going back, I'm old enough to remember the Brixton riots and the riots in the early 80s, because I just joined the police and had a shield in my hand and didn't know what I'd done with my life. But even then those riots in the early 80s, we had the Scarman report, we had looking at the underlying causes and looking what was causing people to be so upset. Nobody's done that about what happened last summer.
They don't want
to straight away, and it still hasn't been done now. And I think that's, if you don't start to look at the causes and look at what causes people to behave like that, then it's just going to fester and it's going to rise up again, isn't it? And nobody wants that. But there has been absolutely no concession by the government at all that we understand why these people were fussing. We understand what their issues are, and we need to address them.
Yeah, all we got from Keir Starmer was it was all far right people, far right thugs who were doing it, which helps nobody, and obviously creates even more problems. But what we're seeing, Colin, and it really disturbs me, is there seems to be a linking up of issues. We heard from Sir David Amos's daughter last week. Obviously, Sir David Amos was murdered, and the man who had murdered him had been put through the Prevent program so briefly. He'd been taken to McDonald's for something to eat, and then kind of like a tick put against his name, and that was that. And the same thing we heard about Axel Rudacabana and Southport. We're hearing similar things to do with the whole grooming gang scandal, and it seems to be that Labour government in particular, and I am absolutely not biased when it comes to any forms of abuse, I will attack them all, but on this issue it seems to be that the Labour Party, who are now in government, have links to all of these issues. What are your thoughts about that?
It's just a mess. The last lot were a mess, and this lot are a mess. But I feared it might get worse. I didn't think it would get quite so bad quite so quickly, but it did. Just going back to the business about being far right. What's interesting, I was doing I went into a studio to do a media piece for another broadcaster. on the day of the demonstration outside Downing Street, when in the evening, and because of a tube problem, I had to walk from Embankment all the way to Westminster, and I walked through the crowds before it started. About 6 o'clock, I walked through there, and yeah, there were a few people in football shirts and with alcohol on their breath, but there were families there. There were people with children. There were people, together, making their point, and tarring them all as far right thugs really, really wasn't possible, wasn't sensible. The actually concerned people, and there are lots of concerned people who feel that they've been left behind, and they had a big chance, to vote, I suppose, and the choices were the choice they made was the expected choice, because they felt they'd been left behind by what had gone on for the previous 14 years. So you vote for change, of course you do, but it just seems hopeless, and I think the hopelessness is the thing that makes things fester and makes people
exactly. Exactly. And I do think there is one parallel to be drawn between the 2011 riots and most recent, and that is the issue of the demonization of the working class, because the same thing happened in 2011. It was the whole thing of, chavs and plebs and all that kind of stuff, and the demonization. I know it was actually all sparked to do with Mark Duggan. That was what the riots were, and then it all spread. But it was still, for many people, when it was happening in outer places outside of London, people felt it was very much a class war that was taking place, and now it feels very much like a sort of class/race war that is taking place. What can we do? With all your knowledge and experience, advise us. What can we do? Not only A, to be able to protest without being arrested, but B, how do we make ourselves heard?
Yeah, I was just going to say that the only thing that will help is listening. People have got to start listening. People in government have got to start listening. They've got to stop demonizing and start listening. That's the key to it. But if you go back to, rightly or wrongly, whatever your view was on Brexit, you go back to that referendum, a lot of these people saw that as their opportunity to stamp their feet and make their voice heard. And what happened after that? The politicians spent the next 5 years trying to reverse it. So how does that make them feel? And they wonder why people don't engage and won't engage with the political system, when you say, well, we had the chance to make a point and you've tried to reverse it and you've still not really done it, I suppose. Right. So I think it's just listening. It's just listening and accepting that there's an alternative point of view. That's the key to all sorts of compromise, isn't it? And you can't. It's not just those in government. It's anyone from that side. If you watch political commentary on TV, on whatever channel you are, that people are just so. I'll use the word, and people say I misuse it, but I'm not sure it is. But people are just so bigoted in their views.
Yeah.
And you can be a bigot. You can be a left-wing bigot as well as a right-wing bigot. And they just will not entertain that there might be a different worldview and a different appreciation and a different kind of understanding of how the world works to the one that they've been spoon-fed from school and university and just come on television and repeat.
Yeah, it's like we've been put into this divide and conquer scenario, isn't it? That's what it feels like. So, Colin, just before you leave us, what are you up to? You must be the busiest retired man in the known world. For those who aren't familiar with Colin, these are two of his books, and both of them were made into fantastic drama documentaries, really proper pucker, fantastic drama documentaries. What are you up to at the moment, Colin? There's another book coming out soon that just is a companion to the documentaries. I've got a documentary series running on Sky, which is the 4th season. We've got a couple of those left, and I'm in the middle of doing a theatre tour. Where I'm literally in the middle of it. I've just started on the second half yesterday, or night before yesterday. I'm going around. It's called Makings of a Murderer 2, and I'm going absolutely all over the country and to Ireland and all sorts of places. Love it.
Talking about murder, and it's just amazing because the lots and lots of people are coming along, and I get to meet them afterwards. I hang around afterwards, and there's always a few people, 100 people sometimes, sort of want to come and say hello, take a picture, have a chat. And it's so different to when you're writing books or you're making TV. All you've got is either the dog with you or the crew with you, and these are real people who are sort of reacting to what I'm saying and asking me questions. It's really, really great fun. And thankfully, I don't mind driving, and I've discovered audio books and podcasts in the last few years. So because literally, you're just all over the place. But
You are working hard, and I'm so glad that you took some time to be with us this morning. Truly appreciate that, Colin. I always love catching up with you. You know, I've got plenty of time for you, and I'm really grateful for that. Thank you so much for being with us. Everybody, remarkable Colin Sutton. Take good care of yourself, Colin.
And you, Sonia. Cheers.
Lovely to see you. Lovely to see him. Yes.
Bye.
And the thing is, I think Colin is exemplary in many respects. I really do. For those who aren't familiar, Colin is in my documentary about Madeleine McCann. He might actually be in both, but he's certainly in public relations and saving reputations, because Colin is the cop who was rumoured to be running Operation Grange, the British investigation into Madeleine McCann. And it was reported in the News of the World. And then Colin was contacted by a senior cop from the Metropolitan Police, said, "Oh, no, you don't want to take that job on." And he said, "Why not?" And when I asked him why not, he said, the reason is I wouldn't be able to look at the parents. That was Colin. He's an honest broker. I love it. He got warned to turn it down, Jack. He certainly did. Sean said, "Thank you, Colin." Nice one, Colin, says Abster. Isn't it good to have a good cop around here? Yes. I still get a chill driving past the place in Walton-on-Thames that Millie was abducted. Yes, we do have many new followers on here, Judith, and I greatly appreciate that. Colin, what the work that Colin did, Manhunt, both of them, parts 1 and 2 are both brilliant. Manhunt 1 is about his work when it all took place really close to me, literally where my dog walker lives is where Levi Belfield used to live, like literally down the road. It's all this area, Teddington and Twickenham and Southwest London. And Colin was the one who was assigned to the case, and he realized that Levi Belfield actually had murdered a number of girls, and that was he murdered Amélie de Lagrange. That was what Colin was assigned to the case for. Poor Amélie, she'd only been in the UK for like 3 months from France. She was murdered by Levi Belfield on Twickenham Green, and there's a bench down there which actually mentions her, and whenever I walk past it, I just get chills. And poor Amélie, all she did was she missed a stop and ended up walking across the green, and Levi Belfield took his opportunity and killed her. And he also killed Millie Dowler, and he killed who else was it? Marsha McDonnell as well. And he ran over poor Kate Sheedy, who managed to survive. You too, Lisa. Me too, Sonia. Walton and Twickenham live right near there. Think about them both. I do too. It's a big story around here, which is why, in part, well, I have a lot of time for Colin because he's just like one of those honest brokers. Like he just did his work. He didn't look for fame or anything, and he's just living a fantastic life now. Talking about it. Yes, Jackie. Poor girl. Just like literally that split decision resulted in that beast. No relation to Alex Belfield whatsoever. Well, I don't know, Greg. Actually, I don't know. I'm saying that. I have no idea. No idea. It is sad, Kiwi. Didn't he get done for Meghan and Lynn Russell too? No, Crazy Bunny. That was Michael Stone, who actually many people believe Michael Stone did not kill. Levi Belfield claimed to have killed them, and he did that in prison after the event, way after the event, most recently. And people said he was just doing it for attention. So you're actually right, Crazy Bunny. He did claim to do that. That would be a massive twist, Jackie. It would be a massive twist because actually Michael Stone, I think, has always said, "I'm not guilty of this." You've seen Colin on TV before, have you, Blind GS? What's your opinion on Alex Belfield? I'm not a fan. Cara, I'm not a fan. And I think that people are under the false belief that he was in prison for freedom of speech. He was not in prison for freedom of speech. He was in prison because he made people's lives live in hell behind the scenes. He was ringing people. He was threatening people. He was saying he was going to be suing people. And he did it over and over and over and over again. He was an obsessive. But he was given 6 years, which was extreme. And I felt that that was a warning shot. And that wasn't right. I wasn't okay with that. Can we please talk about JD Vance in Munich? Let's do it. Let's do it. Have I got an image? I have. Vice President, obviously, JD Vance. He delivers stunning remarks at the Munich Security Conference. He's in Europe to tell Europeans they need to be more like the Americans, commenting on the censorship issues. It's so bad when people abroad see us like that. Like what he had to say about the UK was excoriating to listen to, but it was actually true what he was saying. He got a terrible reception. It was one of the worst receptions I've ever seen for somebody giving a speech, right? But the reality is that what he was saying about the UK was true. It was true that people have been convicted for silently praying outside of an abortion clinic, as one example. So we are being criminalized, not just for our actions, but for thought crimes as well. All of that was true. And what was scary was that somebody outside of us are seeing us. It's like we're in a slowly boiling pot that will frazzle us, but we won't realize it until it's too late because we've been adjusting to the heat all the time. And why is it taking an American politician to call this out, and why? But for the most part, I kind of listened to his speech, and a lot of it was a bit cringy for me, especially when he tried to make jokes and they went down like a lead balloon. But he talked about our shared values. And he opened with denouncing the terrorist attack that had taken place in Munich the day before. He said, we've gathered to discuss security. He said, the threat I worry most about in Europe, the retreat from Europe, from some of its most fundamental values. All of this, I agree with him. He said there's a problem with our freedom of speech. He used a number of examples to outline that. And the example he used in the UK was Adam Smith's Connor, who stood by an abortion clinic, I think about 50 yards or whatever. He silently prayed. He was found guilty of breaking the buffer zone law. And, you know, he went on to talk about the Scottish government warning that private prayer within own homes may amount to law breaking, guilty of thought crimes. And, you know, he said free speech, I fear, is in retreat. And all of that, absolutely, I got it, right? And the loudest voices for censorship have come from the US. He admitted the Biden administration, misinformation, including the COVID leak. And now he's saying all that because he wants to promote what is going on at DOGE. And he talked about the madness of, you know, the silly story of the COVID leak from Wuhan. It was an interesting speech. And he said that Trump will do absolutely opposite to Biden. He said in Washington, there is a new sheriff in town. And it was very muted hand claps. I mean, at one stage, he said in all humor, and he attempted to make a joke about Greta Thunberg and Elon Musk. And he said, like, if, you know, we Americans have had to put up with Greta Thunberg, then you can put up with Elon Musk for a little while. Absolute silence. You could literally hear people like coughing. It was so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable. And the thing is, JD Vance is not, in my opinion, here to save us. You've got to remember he's funded and controlled by Peter Thiel, whose Palantir Palantir at this moment in time is involved with our NHS, but much more than that. Palantir is leading us on a one way to a digital ID, one way. And this whole idea that JD Vance is absolutely on our side is a bit ridiculous. What's quite funny, did he care? I doubt it. We're probably looking at the next POTUS. He was dipping his toe in the water. Absolutely. Absolutely. He was. They did not like that. I mean, some of it was quite funny. Some of it was really uncomfortable, though. Some of it was uncomfortable. But the whole thing at the Munich festival was very interesting. Did anybody see when Zelensky was giving a sort of, you know, on the run, kind of on the run is a bit unfortunate when I'm talking about Zelensky, but he was giving a press conference. Here he is. You can actually see him. He is not happy. Donald Trump is leaving him out of talks, out of proceedings to do with Russia, right? And the thing is that Zelensky is so used for the last, 3 years now? Is it 2-3 years being the center of attention? And suddenly Donald Trump has sidelined him. And I love it. Magic Mac said it's all theatre. And Short Order Cook said it needed to be uncomfortable. People finally sat up and listened. Yeah, he was talking a lot of truth, but the people in that audience do not want to hear it. They do not want to hear that there is a problem in Europe. Yes, absolutely. Truth is not supposed to be comfortable, and it wasn't. And it was literally one of the worst receptions ever. But we have to be careful, I feel, because it's so easy to say, well, he's got to be one of the good guys, hasn't he? Because he's saying A, B, C, and D, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. What was it? Was it Albert Pike? I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that this fits for him, but it was Albert Pike, who was a 33 degree Freemason. What was it? He said, whenever the people need a hero, we shall supply one. Right. So I think that we have to keep considering that at this moment in time. OK, I think that we genuinely do. And but it was all interesting. But Zelensky is not happy, really not happy with that developing relationship between Trump and Putin. And the thing is that a number of people have talked to me about Zelensky and say his behavior is not normal. And one, actually, a drug counselor said that she's been involved with the withdrawal treatments of lots of people, and she would stake her reputation on it, that Zelensky is operating under some substance or another. I think we've all seen it, right? Haven't we all seen it? Trump said he's seen gruesome pictures in Ukraine. Well, Trump is done with Ukraine. He doesn't want to spend any more money there, right? He made it absolutely clear that Ukraine can no longer rely on US assistance. He's making that clear. He wants a deal and he wants it fast, right? And yes, Shug, I tend to agree with you. The US is no longer happy to be that guarantor of security in Europe, and it's over. That point is over. And Keir Starmer is off to see Zelensky today. I believe he's going off to Ukraine. And he took a dig at the fact that Trump and Putin are having conversations. And why shouldn't Trump and Putin have conversations without Zelensky? This tells you how much power they've given Zelensky, that he believes he should be involved in everything. He'll come to you, President Zelensky. He'll come to you sooner rather than later, I'm sure. And Keir Starmer said this morning, this was, I think, on Friday, this morning I spoke to President Zelensky and reaffirmed that there can be no talks about Ukraine without Ukraine. Ukraine has our concrete support for as long as it is needed, said Keir Starmer, one of probably the worst prime ministers. And I'm looking at a retinue of awful prime ministers, but one of the worst prime ministers when it comes to spending our funds. Him, Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson obviously is in the pocket of Ukraine. We know that. The virus came from, really, Deborah? Did it? Did he take it? Well, there's a lot of comments here that I probably cannot read out, although doesn't mean I disagree with them. It doesn't mean I disagree with them. Crime minister, says Craig. Crime minister indeed. So, yes, Zelensky is very, very unhappy, and he's called for the creation of a European army. He warned countries on the continent now needed to fight for their own sake. That's what he said. But he's also warned Donald Trump not to deal with Putin behind our backs when it comes to Ukraine's future. I wouldn't recommend you warn Donald Trump about anything. Donald Trump absolutely knows that Ukraine has been America's proxy war. He knows that. He knows that, and he's not pulling any punches. And the thing is, it's very difficult, isn't it? Because on the one hand, Donald Trump is doing a lot of stuff that I want a world leader to do. Yes, I want the end of this madness in Ukraine. I absolutely do. I hate the fact that the UK have signed up to a 100-year commitment with Ukraine. Why though? Why? And I will not walk in step with the wicked. War is money for the elites. It is indeed. It is indeed. So we shall see. Not happy at all. And I don't know about you, but I'm absolutely sick of the demonization of Russia. I'm sick of it. Sick and tired of it. I've had it my whole life. Russia has always been the bogeyman. Always. And I worked on Russia Today for quite a long time, actually. And one of the most egregious things that happened when the whole Russia-Ukraine started was they closed down Russia Today in the UK. They closed down the Russia Today Bureau. That was egregious censorship. That was under Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson ain't nobody's mate. Russia Today was, I absolutely appreciate it. Russia Today was doing its own propaganda, right? Every TV station in that country does their own propaganda, but Russia Today was telling the truth about the UK and they didn't like it. It was a great channel, Jan. They did not like Russia Today telling the truth about the UK. It was only on Russia Today that I could get away with properly talking truth to power. If they don't allow you on British broadcasters, no, they don't. That's a reality. Build back better, Boris, says Jan. Oh, how we laughed. And Trump is saying something little problematic. He says, he who saves his country does not violate any law. That's kind of like what a lot of dictators have said. In fact, isn't that a Napoleon quote? So that's problematic. And the DOGE situation, let's take Zelensky off the screen. The Doge situation is interesting, right? And I think I've worked something out. I know what Elon Musk is doing with Doge. Now, Elon Musk has been given the job, but he obviously has no mandate as such. He hasn't been elected. Doge isn't actually a department. It's like overseeing the spending, and a lot of it wasteful, but a lot of it not actually. And I know what Elon Musk is doing with Doge, and I know what the end result will be because we've already seen it. He's already done it with Twitter, which he has rebranded X. He went in, sacked most of the staff, and essentially has left Twitter to run itself. And save for his numerous tweets and his amplification of shills, most people on Twitter no longer get their posts seen by the amount of people who used to see their posts. I don't know enough about tech to understand how X works, but what they appear to have done is they've narrowed down posts to about 5% of chosen ones, which flood everyone's streams, and 95% that go nowhere. And one of Musk's first acts when he bought Twitter was to appoint Linda Yaccarino, major WEF person. And they kept saying freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. Twitter was free to use, X is not. Musk made people feel special by offering them a blue tick and other colors for a monthly amount. He took my legacy blue tick. I refused to pay to have it back, and he gave it back for free. So Musk's approach is to strip to the bone and let the peasants scrap amongst themselves on the rotting carcass. And X is now a rotting carcass. Oh, yes, it is. Yes, Charles, we should stop demonizing Russians. I hate it. I do. Maggie Mac says, well, and this is something very interesting. Maggie Mac talks about the biolabs. Now, Tulsi Gabbard talked about the biolabs. She said, what did she say? There's at least 30 biolabs in Ukraine that need to be dealt with, right? Do you? Kavana, I watch RT on Rumble. Right. Tom R now being starved. Who's Tom? Oh, Tommy Robinson. I don't know enough about that. That's just kind of like, it's really difficult because the problem is there's so many lies on social media. So unless I've been able to actually check a story for myself, I try not to repeat it from social media, because the one that they were lying about yesterday was that 40 people had stormed a Birmingham hospital. This is egregious lying. The police say this is simply not true. It simply didn't happen. What the hell is going on? We've got enough problems in our country without people lying. Please stop lying. Please stop making up stuff just for likes. It's not good. We don't like it. Don't appreciate it at all. So anyway, so I think that is literally what Musk is doing. He has this way of just stripping things to the bone and it'll work itself, basically. I mean, other than the fact that you can talk about gender and COVID on X, I think I much preferred Twitter one. I much preferred it. Yet the censorship on it was horrendous, but the censorship still exists. It still exists. And the reason I say that is, I wonder if I've got time to quickly show you this, because this is interesting. This man was he got, I don't know if I've got time to show this. I would like to, but yeah. This man, this cartoonist, he'd done a cartoon, No More Free Lunch, which I can't show you the image. I haven't prepared it, but it was of Elon Musk, and there was stacks of dollar bags behind him, like going to the feds and going to Musk, etc. And there's these poor children in front of him, and it's like no more free lunch, he's saying to the poor children. And that was censored on X. That was censored on X. Does anyone think Musk will try and push Trump out of office? The more he speaks, the more he's acting like he's the president. Well, here's the interesting thing. His father, Errol Musk, who appears to be as poor a father as he is, Errol Musk has said in interview that Elon is so close to Benjamin Netanyahu that Netanyahu calls Elon the real president of the USA. That is what Elon Musk's father says. And talking about Elon Musk, there was a Valentine's Day announcement from this lady, Ashley St. Clair. Ashley St. Clair is about 25, 26-year-old MAGA influencer, and somebody who's got around rather a lot. In fact, here she is with Benjamin Netanyahu. And but she made this big announcement on Twitter on Valentine's Day, and she said, I've had Musk's baby. We kept it quiet for 5 months, which would make it Musk's 13th child. And so he's obviously, we know that Musk has been married 3 times, twice to Tallulah Riley, who, interesting, I don't think he had any children with at all. But he's had children with Justine Musk. He has had he had 6 children with his first wife, Justine. He's had 3 children with Grimes, the singer, and now it would appear that he's had a child with Ashley St. Clair. Right? He gives me the creeps as well. It's absolutely ridiculous state of affairs that you have, that Trump and Musk have 18 kids by 7 mothers. And this is supposed to be the party of family values, right? And Ashley St. Clair, oh my God, talk about foot in mouth. She's said all manner of stuff online, including Kamala can't help herself from bending over for a man to get ahead. Well, there's actually a tweet online where Ashley St. Clair from about 6 years ago was trying to get Musk's attention because she wanted his baby, right? But it turns out that she is actually managed by PR strategist Brian Glicklich. This is a wiki exposure, a WikiLeaks exposure. Brian Glicklich previously received $598,000 from Israeli security company Mer Security and Communication Systems. St. Clair says she's Jewish. She's clearly a Zionist, absolutely, from the stuff that she's put online, no doubt about it. And a number of women have said to me that as a woman, they know exactly why Ashley St. Clair chose to announce her baby on Valentine's Day. Can you guess? I think I agree with this summation of it, this summary of it. And that is, it is highly likely that Musk was out with somebody else on Valentine's Day and Ashley St. Clair just thought, sod it, I'm going to let the world know. These are the traditional conservative values of these people. The richest man on earth is obsessed with populating the earth with little Musks. I mean, that is a fact. He's another technocrat who believes that his sperm is superior. I mean, that's a reality. And that was a lot of anger. So it turns out that even if you are the so-called richest man in the world with $400 billion, you still aren't exempt from anger on Valentine's Day. And the problem about Musk, and we have to be real here, is he is so easily blackmailable. He's so easily blackmailable right now, right? Reality, he's so close to the president, but this is a man who was apparently hidden that he had a new child for 5 months, right? And you have to ask, is she Mossad? Is she, though? It was a clandestine encounter, a hidden pregnancy, and Musk and his team are telling her not to tell anyone. Blackmail is one of the most pervasive tools that government and their security agencies, including the UK and Israel, use to get the results they seek. I don't know about you, but if a man has a team telling a pregnant woman that she cannot tell the world she is carrying a baby, he sounds like a security nightmare for a sitting president. Elon Musk proves over and over again that money is the biggest talker in our world. He took over the president's Oval Office. He didn't conform to any protocol, including dress. He has multiple children by multiple women. He is, by most accounts, a poor father. He has been given significant power over the American people, and his influence is spreading all over the world. And he has been voted in, and he has not been voted in position by anyone, not anyone. Like Bill Gates, his influence is bought and paid for. He is also proving to be an absolute increasing problem for Donald Trump. I've been researching corruption, well, for decades, including honey traps. And Ashley St. Clair had trouble written all over her. And the fact that Elon Musk cannot control himself and displays such poor judgment that he has to hide a baby tells you rather a lot. The fallout is coming, Blue Nomad. Money is power, sadly, says Stephen. Oval Office, think about it, says Randy. And I have to agree with tweeter Sarah Longwell, and that is, if a woman had 13 kids by 4 different men, used ketamine, and spent all her time running a shadow presidency, I'm not sure our society would celebrate her. And then you have the reprehensible Tates. Was it Andrew Tate saying that if, I'm going to paraphrase him, but basically, if a man only has children with one woman, then he's a problem. These are regrettably degenerate people who have very loud voices. And I think we can talk about this. And that is, Amber Heard has never talked about who is the father of her 2 children, but it could well be Elon Musk. It could well be Elon Musk. Yes, it could. And here's the thing, is that the whole soap opera of Ashley St. Clair and Elon Musk is going bad. It's going absolutely bad, because somebody had pulled out this tweet of where she had earmarked him 6 years ago of where she wanted a baby by him. And Elon Musk's only response to the revelations this weekend was "whoa" in response to that tweet. And then she wrote, "Elon, we've been trying to communicate for the past several days and you have not responded. When are you going to reply to us, instead of publicly responding to smears from an individual who just posted photos of me in underwear at 15 years old?" Well, it also turned out that that same individual had under Ash, because this individual had previously said bad things about Ashley on Twitter. Ashley was able to pull rank within Twitter/X, and that person's account was suspended. So it shows us that Elon Musk censors and suspends accounts that control the public narrative and kills stories, right, that could impact his personal friends and women he impregnates. Many people say that Ashley St. Clair is just another Israeli asset. And who am I to argue at this stage? Who am I to argue? But it's all very revealing. And honestly, Elon Musk went offline this weekend, apparently to finesse Grok 3. But we all know that he was there with his legal team and they're like, oh God, what are we going to do? Yes, healing the silence. It feels like these power-hungry egomaniacs use children as weapons, then care about them actually being a child. When Musk was about to be pushed out of Tesla, where did he go? Epstein. What's that mean? If they get airtime, they're owned. And there was this weird conversation between Ashley St. Clair and Elon Musk last July. So August, September, October, November, December. So actually, she was pregnant. She was pregnant with his child. And she said, there is no sin as cruel as alienating a child from a parent, seeing so much of this everywhere. And he was like, and Elon Musk responded to her, yeah. And she said, it must stop. Well, at that moment in time, wasn't he going through some stuff with Grimes? Grimes, I don't think, can even see her children at this moment in time, which is why he keeps schlepping that poor little ex all over the place. And by the way, right, at this moment in time, what fraud has Elon Musk actually found? He's actually found aid programs that he doesn't agree with. That is largely the reality. Okay, that's largely the reality. And that's what money buys you. You can go into a country, you can be an immigrant, but as long as you're rich enough, you can start telling the people in that country what to do. Isn't that what Elon Musk is supposed to be against? Apparently not. Apparently not. Right, we're going to welcome in our next guest very shortly, people. Very shortly. I must admit, I did find Morgan J. Freeman's tweet funny. He said, Trump is 78, Musk is an immigrant and has autism. They are both DEI hires. Yes, indeed. And I wonder, has Alex Jones been replaced, by the way? That guy is an absolute arsewipe. He always was. I mean, he used to be quite a truth teller, but these days he's a pure propagandist for the Trump administration. He was bigging up Elon Musk for having another child. Idiot people. What's that? Oh, yeah, Justin's been on here before, John. Yes, he has. And Donna says, Musk supports his kids. He has an active sex life. Hate Musk channel. Donna, sit down. Sit down, baby. He's got 13 children, and by all accounts, he hardly sees any of them. And one of the first one now thinks that as actually one of the first children, one of Musk's first children that Musk has shamed online and says has the woke mind virus, has removed his own genitals. He hates himself so much, probably as a consequence of having such crappy parents. And no, this is not Hate Musk channel, but we're about the truth, Donna. We don't just suck up for the sake of it, okay? Mike said, to be honest, I would consider letting that lady have my baby as well. Musk burns steak. We must remember some of them are made offers they can't refuse. That's true. I've never been made an offer I can't refuse. And I've been made lots and lots of offers. And, but I suppose that's the difference between people who sell out and people who don't. I think it's that simple, isn't it? Isn't it that simple? Now, before I welcome on our next guest, I want to play this. It is one of our 1-minute rants. I haven't received anything from anybody about beautiful things that's happening. Please feel free to. We started off this new thing, didn't we? We talk a lot about miscarriages of justice on Wake Up, and I believe Clive Freeman is one of them. Clive Freeman, an ex-polo player from Zimbabwe, was convicted of murdering Alexander Hardy in 1988, despite the fact that the evidence points to natural causes as the cause of death. Nonetheless, Clive has been inside for double his prison term because he's refused to accept he was guilty of the crime. If he admitted that he had carried out the crime, he would have been released decades ago. Clive Freeman's case is another failure of our criminal justice system, and that includes failings at the CCRC, the Criminal Case Review, and the CPS. And this is Phil Buchanan from the Campaign to Free Clive Freeman. This is his 1-minute rant.
Free Clive Freeman. Welcome to Britain, the most fair justice system in the world. If you're innocent, you can only get out if you admit you're guilty. Now, tell me how that works. So, how many innocent men in Britain have died so that the authorities can try and protect the truth from coming out? That's pretty profound. Now, with Clive Freeman, I think you will find that he's got the right team round about him, that even if he does die before he's released, the people responsible for it will be found out. And I look forward to that day.
Well, the thing is that retribution is a very serious human emotion. Our criminal justice system is rotten to the core. Bloody Freemasons, says Simon. I'm not here to disagree with that, Simon. And even the lady who said this is a Musk hate channel, I read out her comment because I think, I even if I disagree, and I absolutely disagree with what she said, I absolutely did. I think that there is this idea that, as Albert Pike said, as I quoted him earlier, and that is, whenever the people need a hero, we will supply him one, or we will supply them with one. And I think that Musk is absolutely lined up for that. He is far from a hero from me. He's just somebody with a lot of money, and he is not a genius. And that is my position on him. We were once called the mother of all parliaments. We were. Are you aware of central casting? Yes, I am. What is this in reference to, madam? Right. I want to bring in my next guest. Thank you, Phil. Really appreciate that. Let's bring in our next guest. Let's bring him to the stage. Here he is, Sovereign Pete. How are you, Pete? Long time no see. I
know, not seen you for a while. I'm all good. How are you?
Great, thank you. Everybody, this is Pete Stone from the Sovereign Project. Pete, I watched a interview that you guys did with Sky News, and the thing is that I don't know him. I know of him, Tom Cheshire, I think it is, and he's covered a lot of stuff like this where he's absolutely very clear. It's really about the demonization of anybody who's an outside thinker, who is thinking outside of the box. He went and he covered an event. I was onto it immediately. I like the fact that you did get some coverage though, because I think that's important. I think it's important that the Sovereign Project does. Tell people what the Sovereign Project is, Pete, for those who don't know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for those who don't know what the Sovereign Project is and the Sovereign Fraternity is that it's a network of sovereign men and women who understand how the system truly works. And what we are doing is we're willing to share this knowledge with people who want to wake up and take control of their lives and fight back against the tyranny and all the corruption that they find themselves in. So I set it up in 2020 with all the nonsense going on, with all the lockdown stupid stuff and mandate stuff. So we've been helping people like that who are caught up in the system for years. So that's basically what the Sovereign Project is all about. And we're having great fun.
Well, you appear to be. And the thing is that a lot of people have deep concerns about this. And one of the reasons, when I was talking to Tom, who'd organised for you to come on, I was like, people get frustrated with this because they know there's something there. They don't know how to apply it or whether it will be able to be upheld. And that is the problem. This whole idea that we are sovereign is not backed up in British law, unfortunately, because the people that it may be, I'm not that I've worded that wrong. What I'm saying is that they have an army of police and they have an army against us. So how do we ultimately work this? Because it's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yes. Well, the problem is most people are trapped within the legal system. And if you're trapped within the legal system, you're never going to win this game. So you refer to British law. Well, British is a corporation. It's not land. All right, you've got to understand the game first. So when you say British law, you're talking about the legal system that's controlled by politicians, it's controlled by judges, and it's controlled by those sort of people. But it's all commerce. So when you start learning this system, you understand it's all commerce. You can play the game. It's all contractual. Like, for example, I know the farmers are worried over inheritance tax at the minute. But if they understood that tax is in fact contractual and cannot be forced, then they'd be laughing their heads off and say, okay, we can deal with this, no problem at all, like that. You see, the problem you've got is most people, they have what is called the slave mentality. So they think they have to do the thing. So when the politicians say you have to be locked down, oh, got to do it then. Or you have to wear a mask, oh, I've got to do it then. Or you have to pay tax, oh, I've got to do it. Well, we can't help people like that. So people who do it to themselves because of their slave mentality, if they truly believe they have to do it, there's nothing we can do. So what sovereignty means is that you've woken up. You are not a slave anymore. You're not going to be told what to do anymore. And then you can take control of your own life. And then you can realize it is all contractual. And just before I finish on that point, people have got to know the difference between force and enforce. Now, if you notice, the police, the government, or the people who hide behind those corporations don't force anything. They enforce. And you go, what does that mean? It means they're enforcing a policy that you've agreed to. So you go, okay, then if I've agreed to this policy, I need to see the contract, don't I? And if they can't produce a contract, then guess what? What they're doing to you is now a criminal act. This is why this game is so easy to play. Once you know what you're doing, you know what the rules are. So, yeah, we can get deeper into that if you wish.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely want to talk about council tax as well, because council tax is an ongoing issue for many, many people. And the thing is, I thought it was interesting, again, with Sky, they'd got in touch with a number of local councils, and local councils came out and said, this is absolutely illegal not to pay your council tax. And it was, I mean, just repeated. I don't need to tell you what was in that report, but it was quite damning. But there is obviously legislation that covers council tax. We know that. But what is your position on council tax?
Well, let's just go back to that statement they said. They said it's illegal. Okay, not a problem. I haven't got a problem with that. But you've got to understand what the word illegal means. Legal and illegal means policy. It's referring to a contract again. It's not lawful. That's a different terminology altogether. So people have got to learn the difference between lawful and legal. This is a basics level. You know, we teach this in the 22-week course. But if anyone says to you, you can't do something because it's illegal, they've just said to you, we're in a contract, you've agreed to this, you've signed a contract, and now what you're doing is going against a policy within that contract, therefore it's illegal. So the council just said it's illegal not to pay. And I go, okay, fine, let's see the contract then. Can I see the contract that I've signed where I've agreed to that policy where not paying it is illegal? They don't say it's unlawful. So it's a system of commerce.
Interesting. So it's semantics, isn't it? Pete, I have to ask you this. Do you pay your council tax?
Well, that is a loaded question. That's something I cannot answer, and I'm going to explain to people why no one should answer that.
And that's exactly what I want you to do. Go for it. Right. Exactly that, because it's problematic, isn't it? Go for it.
So, if someone ever says that to you, you cannot answer that question because you can't say yes or no to that. Because if someone says to you, "Have you paid your council tax?" and if you say yes, well, you've paid it. If you say no, you've just agreed that you do indeed have a council tax bill and you've refused to pay it and you've accepted the obligation to pay it. Therefore, they can now enforce you to pay it. That's how it works. This entire system is based on consent, but you are tricked using legalese language. So instead of saying, do you pay your council tax? What you should be saying or asking yourself is, hang on a minute. I don't remember putting an order in, receiving a bill to receive a bill from a corporation in the first place. When did I put my order in? What council tax bill? Oh, and I just want to add this as well. This is going to blow your mind. Did you know that no council actually sends a bill?
What do they send?
They send an article, an artificial document that is masquerading as a legal document. And it isn't. Because people can't read, they look at it and they think it's a bill because it says bill on the top in all caps letter. Well, if you know English, you can study this, you can study English, but if anything's written in all caps, it's an acronym. So it doesn't say bill. It's got B-I-L-L. And you go, what does that mean? You see, in this system of commerce, which includes the courts are a bank. They don't deal in law. Courts are a bank. In this system of commerce, everything's got to be written down. And a bill has to be written in a certain way, and it's called a some certain bill, which means the digits are written as a text. So it's actually a document which is written and signed, and that creates an actual, what is called a debt instrument. Once you receive a debt instrument, you can deal with that. And I won't go too deep into that, but you can get into bills of exchange and you can endorse it and send it back, and that's the end of the bill. So what they actually do send, what the council send, is a fictitious document. It is not a presentment in any way, shape or form. It is not a demand in any shape or form. They are tricking you. And the average person falls for this trick because they haven't learned this system of commerce. Now, we can get into that in a bit if you wish, but it is quite complicated.
Yeah. So follow that through with me, right? Let's go right from the moment that you receive that not a bill, right?
Yes.
From your local council. And you say, I'm not paying for this because I don't like what it's funding, right? So because that, I don't know if you're familiar with Probity and Chris Coverdale and what they're doing, which is about stop funding illegal wars and, you know, and like, so legally to not pay tax. So you've received this bill, not a bill from the local council, and you say, I'm not paying that, and then they send you a summons. What do you do?
Well, what you should be doing in this game of commerce is you always scrutinize the paperwork. Always. Never ever assume. So, for example, the so-called summons that comes through the post from the council, the very first thing you should be doing is contacting the court. Give them a phone call and say, I need to see the details that is applied to this case number. Now, remember what a case number is. A case number is made up of letters and digits. And these letters and digits count for certain things. It will say what the nature of the case was, the date of the case. There's a serial number that refers to all the information regarding the judge on the day, who was present, all this sort of stuff. Now, if you contact the court, they'll say they don't have a case number. And you go, well, hang on a minute. I've got some sort of document that says I'm summoned to court. And you'll find it's actually fraud. So what the council are doing is they're sending their own internal document, and it'll be notice of. It'll be like notice of summon to court, or summon to court is written in all caps, so it doesn't say in English. So if you accept a fraudulent document, it's not fraud anymore because you've accepted it, and the courts will not help you on that point because you chose to accept a fraudulent document. However, if you call the document out and say, I think something's wrong here, I don't think this is a true court summons, now it is fraud. Because if the other side don't retract it, now I can go after them and say, you're submitting fake documents to me. And it's 7 years imprisonment, by the way. Anyone who sends out a fake summons, it's 7 years imprisonment using their own legislation.
Well, so now there's loads of stuff that I have to ask you here. So one of the things is like, so say, for example, I go to court and I say, is it a freeman of the land that I would go under? No, that's not it. Never.
People
go on.
Got to stay away from the free man and the land stuff. Please don't go into court saying you're operating under common law because they control the common law. Common law applies to the commoners, people of lower stock, the people who are under the rule of the House of Commons, because you don't have your own house. We don't have time to get into that, but you'll lose the game. Do not go into these courtrooms saying I'm free man on the land. Please don't do letters saying I, the living man, and all this sort of stuff, because the legal team that reads that knows you know nothing, and they will come after you with full force. You have to learn to treat this as commerce. So you've got to learn the game of commerce, and you've got to know how to read, and this is what we teach at the Sovereign Project.
So I saw, and they use this obviously on Sky, and I've known this before anyway, where people have gone in and they've said, you know, I'm operating under common law. They've been arrested, and they actually showed on Sky somebody being arrested and prosecuted. Yes. So how do you avoid all that? Because people do want to do this. People do want to do this. And I think Sally Ann makes a good point. She said, I think it's reasonable to pay for services provided by the council. It's the amount they charge which I object to. It's extortionate. And I agree. I'm quite happy to pay for services, but not the sheer volume that they want. How would you break down something like that if you're happy for some, but not all?
Well, here's the thing. Council tax doesn't pay for services. It's got nothing to do with emptying the bins or cleaning the roads. You've already paid for that. You're the creditor. I mean, I know we've got very little time here, and I really don't have time.
Go for it, Pete. Go.
The way this works is that how a government actually operates is they use the people, a birth certificate. The birth certificate is a securitized instrument, and it's worth about $100 million each. Because you are registered with the government, which is a corporation, the same as McDonald's, we've become the creditors to the government. So the government spends our credit in our name. We've paid for it all. We've paid for the roads. We've paid for the power stations and the water to be cleaned and all the rest of it. This creates the national debt. So the national debt, by the way, national means corporation. So it's saying corporate debt. That national debt, corporate debt, is what the government, which is a corporation, owes us. They owe us. Now, this debt sits there and it has to have interest payments made. So where does the government get the interest payments from? They tax us. And that is what your council tax is doing. It goes into a consolidation fund account, goes to central government, and what they do is they pay the interest on the national debt using your tax. So tax doesn't pay for schools, it doesn't pay for the roads and anything. It's a system of commerce using a debt credit system that the average person doesn't even comprehend. Remember, these are not money. This is a promissory note. This is why I say to people, you've got to learn this game.
Yeah.
You've got to learn the game.
You have to learn the game. Talk to me about wet signatures. I've heard that often.
Yes. Now, this is very important. And this, you've got to learn this. Wet ink signature on a document gives that document legal standing. I want everyone to understand this. What does legal standing mean? We've already covered what legal means. It means contract. It means someone is holding up a document, all right, a contract. And for that to apply to me, I have to have signed it and agreed to it. But their signature has to be on it as well. Standing. This is so simple. Some of this stuff is so basic, you're going to kick yourself. Oh, my God. Standing quite literally means a man or woman standing by the document, someone who is alive. If you are alive, you can make your law. So you can sign a document, and while you are alive, that document is got legal standing. If there is no legal standing, then the contract is null and void. Doesn't matter what it is. Any document that comes to your front door comes through the post. If there's no signature on it and there's no name of the author of the document, no legal standing. It is not an official legal document. It's not a contract. It's not an agreement. It's toilet paper.
And also, I think a lot of people contact me because what they've had is they've had their debts passed along to a collection agency. What's that position?
That's illegal again. So what, then again, if you learn this game, you can challenge debt collectors. You can have fun with them. You can mess about with them. In fact, you can even sue the debt collectors for providing incorrect documentation. So they can't sell the debt. So the way it works, if I've got a true debt with somebody, and by the way, that is not council in any way, shape or form. There is no council tax debt. There is no council tax bill. This is why the courts can't deal with it. So the debt is sold, but they can't sell it because this is how it works. If I truly have a debt with someone, I have to give permission for them to sell the debt to someone else. I have to allow it. That's called a novation agreement. If there's no novation agreement, then the debt stays with that person. They can't sell it. Or
people need to know that. I mean, that I think can be immediately applied, can't it? I think Nobby, what Nobby is saying is something that I generally get whenever I talk about this subject. And that was, what will any of this do to help us? Because it feels a bit like kind of like chocolate on the tongue. It's there and then it's gone. Do you know what I mean? It's like people want to make this real. What?
It is real.
But it's hard to grasp it, isn't it? Because of the forces that are working against us for us not to be able to use this. Yes. What would you immediately do today, right? To start if you were listening to this right now, what would you immediately do today to start making changes in the right direction?
Well, we're already making changes in the right direction because, I set up the Sovereign Project. So I did what I did. Look, men have got to be men now. All right, I'm getting tired of boys whining. Oh, what do I do? You're supposed to learn. You're supposed to educate yourself.
Right.
You've got to put on your big boy pants now, all right? You are supposed to be a man. If you have a problem in your life, you're supposed to deal with it and find the solution. Don't go looking for someone to do it because that makes you a boy. So this is about men being men. And of course, women, they've got to stand up as well. They've got to say, right, I've had enough of this. I'm going to learn the system. I'm going to figure this out. Instead of watching football or Netflix or going down the pub and do all the rest of it, that people say, oh, I'm too busy to learn this stuff. Really? You're too busy to learn this? I don't think so. Set aside one evening a week. And that is your evening where you will learn this every evening and you'll be learning it. And then you will use your own remedy. And I just want to add one more thing. You cannot copy someone else's remedy. Doesn't work for you. My remedy works for me. Won't work for you.
So it's all individually tailored, right? Rosie makes an excellent point. I wonder why there are no lawyers doing this. Yes, they're taught legal, but Pete seems to think that's funny.
Why would the lawyer be out of a job? It's like, why would the pharmaceutical companies tell you the cure for cancer?
Ah,
They couldn't tell
got
you the cure.
got you. Right.
Why would-
So you couldn't have a lawyer representing
No.
this in any way, right? Because
No,
it's
they'll slow you
completely
down.
contrary. Right. Talk to us about legal precedent that may help people on
Yes.
this. And I think there is an example, isn't it? Leighton versus Bristow and Souter. Is that an example?
Yes. Now, this is where Wayne Leighton, he put on his big boy pants. He became a man and he did this on his own. And he went into that courtroom and says, right, let's have some. And he said, where is the documentation? And he took Bristow and Souter to court and he said, where's this why is this liability order? Where is it? And eventually the judge had to back down because Wayne knew his stuff and he'd done his homework and it was his work. And that is when the judge went, yeah, there's a deficient instrument here. That's all you're going to get out of a judge. He's never going to admit, yes, fraud. He'll say there's a deficient instrument here. Yeah, well, if there's a deficient instrument, that means the entire case collapses, doesn't it? And of course, Wayne got paid out. Thank you. I think it was $4,000. I think he got $4,000. He would have got more, but
so that's a precedent-setting case that can be used repeatedly for people,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. But only if you know why.
Go on.
People can't be lazy. So don't just go to a debt collector and say, oh, you can't touch me because of what Wayne did. Because the debt collectors don't care. They will know that you're bluffing and they will steamroller over the top of it. What you should do is study the case, which I have. I've actually got the transcript and I studied it. In fact, I think the Peacekeepers did a breakdown of it on their YouTube channel, which is worth watching. Study the case. Now you know the case inside and out. Now you know what a liability order is. You see, if you don't know what a liability order is, how can you challenge the debt collectors? Because they'll laugh at you. You don't know what a liability order is. Look, let me just, if we've got time, very briefly, this is how it works. It is all a system of commerce on everything. ULEZ, speeding, the farmers, all of it. It's all commerce. And it's based on a string of events that happens. Commerce is linear. Think of a chain. And each link is a piece of paper. It's a document. And these documents have to be correct for the case to stand. And it starts with you. You either put in an order or someone makes an offer to you. Step one. If you accept the order or you make an order, you accept it. The next step is a contract is drawn up. When the contract is drawn up and you say to the person, go and do the thing like empty my bins, and they do it, they can then give you an invoice. Once you've received the invoice, you can say, yeah, fair enough, I'm going to pay that. But an invoice is normally time sensitive, 30 days. If you don't pay the invoice, then they can produce the bill. A bill is a demand for payment. That bill is based on that series of documents. So I'm hoping you can see how fragile this council tax is. When did you put the order in with the council? Where's the contract?
Right.
Where's the invoice?
Right. We do have to ask more. I mean, I think that a lot of people would like to do this, but they're concerned. I think Shalini probably speaks for a lot of people. If it comes to it, they will have your door broken down, take your stuff to pay for the bill. This won't work. Bearing in mind the government authorities have done. Sorry, this is BS. Is that defeatism? What is that? Or is it reality?
That's either trolls or retarded people. Okay,
she's definitely not a troll. She's a regular around here. I know that much. She just doesn't believe this. And the thing is, I know that lots of people don't believe it. And Tom Cheshire at Sky was one of them, right? As a perfect example.
Yes.
But knowledge is power. You're saying the big problem is that we're lacking the education to actually protect ourselves in these situations.
Absolutely correct. Knowledge is power. There's people out there that don't want to learn. That makes them ignorant. If they just want to moan and complain, don't talk to me. Be a slave. Yes, your door will be kicked in. Yes, they'll take your stuff. All right. I only got time for people who want to learn this and actually want to do something about it. And I'll only help those people. If I see someone who says, well, I didn't know this, tell me more. What's this about commerce? What's this about an invoice? How do contracts work? What's an affidavit? What does due process mean? What does lawful and legal mean? I can help you. Not a problem. So if people are defeatists and say, it won't work, they're going to kick the door in. Yeah, fine. But you've agreed to that. So when the police turn up, you've agreed and allowed the police to kick the door in. See, you've got to learn the difference between lawful, legal, and criminal. Can the government do what they do to you lawfully? No, they can't. Can they do it to you legally? No, they can't. Can they do it to you criminally? Yes, of course they can. But if there's enough of us and say, whoa, hang on a minute, this is a system of commerce, again, I say it before, where's the men? If there's enough men who stand up and say, no, we're not having none of this.
There seems to be a problem. We've got a cowardice problem. Jan said, is it true that no one has ever gone to prison for not paying council tax, Pete? I don't know whether that's true or not. Do you know whether that's true?
No one ever has. However, people have agreed to go to prison. They don't understand it. So here's how it works. And this is the same for everything. If you go to one of their courts, you are supposed to sign what is called a memorandum of consent, right? You've got to sign this document. That then allows the court to act upon you. Now, normally you don't know this document even exists, but your lawyer does. And what he does, he represents you and he signs on your behalf. So that lawyer has agreed for you to go to prison. So you agree to go. It's all done through consent. So, yeah, see, people think on a 5-year-old level. That's the problem. They just think on a simplistic level. Most people are illiterate. They cannot read. They don't want to read. And they just want to kick up a fuss and moan. And I say, look, if you took some time and learned this, you'll see a way out. You've got to study this stuff.
This is about reclaiming our individual power, isn't it? That's
bingo. 100%. Don't be part of the collective. Stand your ground. Make yourself a name. Especially men. Men should be doing this all day long. But anyway.
We all should be standing up to be counted, because I do actually think, to be honest with you, I do think it's really easy to be able to say what you're saying is bullshit if we haven't actually tried it, right? You know, and that the problem is, and I think this is really valuable, is people are scared, Pete. We've seen how authoritarian it is in the UK. Look over the last 5-6 months. They're locking people up for social media posts. Yeah. You can't blame people for being scared. And the problem is that it's that fear that makes people go along with things, right? Yeah. So have you ever been arrested for this?
I've had my house swatted. I've been stuck in a cell for 12 hours. So, yeah, the police sent me a message one night. They want me to shut up. I ain't gonna.
Did they charge you with anything for that?
Oh, they lied in court, made a whole load of stuff. Look, people like me, and it's not just me in the truth movement. There's many, many people speaking out. Yeah, we've put a crosshairs on our forehead, right? If I'm taken out, I'm taken out. I don't care. I've had enough. And this is what people are supposed to do. I'm sick and tired of people saying I'm scared. Well, look, people who are scared and don't do nothing, each within you, because you know you should do something, but you're too scared.
We have to rise up.
Yes,
we do. Brit Indian wants to know, do you teach this? Yes, you do. That's what the Sovereign Project is about, isn't it? I think if I haven't already put a link in the description, Brit Indian, I will after this. Cider Guy said it does work. I've done it and proved it. I had my day in court and won hands down.
Well done, mate.
And I agree with Jan, and that is, think people are frightened of getting it wrong. Go to the Sovereign Project website. As I say, if I haven't put the link in, let's find out. I think we have to really start doing it. The other week, I really didn't like having to pay my tax bill. That hurt me for all obvious reasons. And I did it for exactly that reason, because there's only so many things I can juggle and only so many challenges I can take on at one moment in time as an individual, Pete. But I do believe that we are lacking the knowledge of this. And obviously, it's not been to the advantage of anybody within the system to teach us this. That's why it does actually take individuals. That's why it does actually take individuals, right?
You absolutely 100%. You will not be taught this in school. You will not even be taught this in university. All right. The people who control the system do not want you to know the truth. We know the truth, and we are willing to share this knowledge with those who want to learn and put the work in. And you're not alone. People say, I'm alone. No, you're not. No, you're not. The Sovereign Project is massive. We've got members all over the world now. So you can be part of a network of people. We've got thousands of people in multiple social media platforms sharing in knowledge and helping each other out and turning up to houses when the bailiffs turn up. Get involved. Don't stay at home and go, oh, I'm scared of this parking.
I do understand your frustration, actually, Pete. I do get it. Sometimes get incredibly frustrated. Soul Sound, Pete's already answered that, because Soul Sound is saying, have you paid your own council tax? And Pete has explained why he's not going to answer that. And not least, actually, it'll be really problematic from a legal perspective, I'm sure, to be saying that on a live stream right now as well. You have to be careful. You have to be really, really careful, right? Yes. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Courage, and you could be king of the forest. They will lie and use violence against us. But the thing is, we have to raise up. We have to rise up. We absolutely do. And that is men and women alike. We need to come together. Yes, Chris Coverdale does something quite similar. It's different, but it's similar. It works together. All of these things can work together. And that's why, Thomas, thank you very much for organising for Pete to come on and talk to us. Pete, I said to Thomas, there will always be people in my comments who will get angry because they say this doesn't work. This simply doesn't work. And this guy is just talking BS, right? And I knew that was going to happen. But there's a lot of people here saying, I want to know more. And I think that is, yeah, exactly. I think, Randy, and I think that's it really, isn't it? And that is be a rebel in your own standing. We all need to learn to do that. It has to be en masse, Judith, but also I think there is a case for us also reclaiming our individual power, our sovereign power. Our sovereign power, literally that, right? Literally that, right, Pete?
Project.
Leave us with a final word, Pete. You've got people well riled up on all sides, and it's good. But the thing is, it's good because if I have a conversation on here and it's really flat and nobody's responding to it, nothing's being taken in. No. Nothing's being heard. So you've definitely got people all wound up in all manner of directions. So leave us with a parting shot, Pete.
Yes, you're not alone, everybody. You can only stand in your own power. And you can't hide within a group. So you have to stand up. Everybody has a voice. When people say, what am I supposed to do about it? Well, what was I supposed to do about it in 2020? I thought I'd set up the Sovereign Project and do PowerPoint and do a podcast. Everyone has a voice. Everyone has access to social media. Everyone can speak out. Everyone can do something and everyone can learn and share knowledge. And that's what we should be all doing. Yes, it is a fight. It is a war. Yes, you've got to get past the fear. That's why that makes you brave if you can overcome the fear. And it is going to take a lot of us to do it. But you could do it at home using the pen. You're not fighting in the streets. Don't petition, please. Please don't petition. Don't protest. Don't strike. Don't do any of that because that means you've lost the game. All right? Because only children do that. I know we're running out of time, but there's a lot more to learn. If you want to learn more, check us out, thesovereignproject.live. Join a growing network and get educated and become powerful.
Deborah wants to know if your live sessions are back.
We will be doing a new course in the summer. So we've got 2 sets of online courses, which is the foundation course and the advanced course, which you can stream anytime you want. There's workshops all over the country now, so you can go to a local Sovereign Project workshop where there's thousands of people now learning this and sharing knowledge. So you're not alone. There's a network you can now join. But we are planning on a brand new masterclass in the summer, which we will have some fun with because I'm going to talk about bills of exchange and promissory notes and how the system truly works.
Thank you for being with us this morning and taking no prisoners. I absolutely appreciate that. I really do. Everybody, it's Pete Stone from the Sovereign Project. Great to see you, Pete. Take good care of yourself. Have a brilliant week. Lovely to see you. Thank you.
See you.
Thank you. He took no prisoners this morning, people. You're not having it. Not having it. And I take it, you know, I get what you're saying. People like Shalini and Nobby, you're not convinced. I get it. I absolutely get it. Which is why we need that precedent setting judgment. Well, that exists now, so that can be used. You can use that, and he mentioned that. And if you need to look it up, it's Leighton, Leigh-Ton versus Bristow and Soutar, Sutor. Check it out. It's a High Court case, and it sets a precedent. So that we should be checking into. I'm a big fan of Pete, says Kiwi Mama. Public need to rise up against extortion. It's not straightforward, Mel's, which is why there's a problem, right? And Cider Guy said it's actually straightforward to learn yourself. Not straightforward, and it is straightforward. Who can ever tell these days? But Monopods thinks he was a great guest regardless. Buy a van and have no taxes, Kevin. I want to know more and able to tell family. Robert, Sovereign Project is online. I'll put a link after. Have to say you have remarkable guests. Nobby, I give it my best shot. And obviously, I'm really interested in what people have to say. That's the thing. I'm really interested in what people have to say because I think we've lived in a world for too long where we crowd out unpopular opinion. And I don't want that to be what Wake Up is about. And which is why I also have sometimes unpopular opinions that upset people, and they scream and they shout and they send me rancid emails. But I do believe in freedom of speech. I don't believe that you should be free from consequences. I think we have to face consequences sometimes for our freedom of speech. So if somebody said something really horribly, repugnantly insulting about me, I may come back, right? Yeah. Wake up is the best. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. Shalini, I know you're not having a go. Absolutely. But he shouldn't be saying certain ways are not ways to stand up, says Shalini. But Shalini, he is, I mean, I do understand his frustration because he's literally saying, if you follow this, you can get this. And there is that one case. We should look at that one case, right? Health Freedom said you can't please everyone in this world. No, you can't. But the aim of Wake Up is not to please anyone or everyone. It's just to tell the truth as I and my guests see it. And our viewers will jump in and say, that's not right. I don't like that. And I think that's important. And he was Gina. He was an excellent guest. Hey, Gina who likes me having on different guests who with different opinions. FC Governors has been taking notes. I love you too, Cameron. I love you too. Why not have a 5 p.m. phone in midweek? KB says, I would be happy to do that. I would be happy to do that. If you ring in. Monday, spread the love indeed. Right. What should we talk about, darling people? What on earth is happening with former talk show host Wendy Williams? I've got to bring in some imagery. Anybody seen that interview with TMZ? Now, some of you may not know Wendy. I've known Wendy for a very, very long time. Wendy was an original hip hop girl. I must have some imagery to show you of Wendy. So this was Wendy, most famously, was a talk show host and a very, very successful one. She used to be on Hot 97 a long time ago in the 80s and 90s, very much involved in hip hop. Wendy Williams was one of the first people to tell the truth about what was going on at Diddy's parties. This woman, on the surface, always appeared like a frightful gossip, but the reality is she was actually telling tales on Hollywood. Anyway, for the last 2 years, she's essentially been incarcerated. Now, I was watching the downfall of her, and it was awful. It was pitiful, actually, to watch. She filled herself with all manner of cosmetic procedures, completely distorted her face. But she was very revealing about what was going on, about, you know, like really like the sicknesses in Hollywood, whether that involved Kanye or Diddy or the Kardashians or whomever. She went for it. And there was an interview with TMZ, but she's also done another interview as well with Night Access, I think it is. Let me just bring in this image because this, I think, was the most shocking. And this is her. And what they did was they couldn't go in and speak to her at the facility. So they actually had to film her outside the facility where she's up against the window as they're talking to her inside, right? You can actually see the image, what she once looked like and what she looks like now. That image where she's on the phone is her, where she's incarcerated in this New York living facility. And basically what it is she's under this strange conservatorship. It's sort of a guardianship, similar to what Britney Spears was under when Britney Spears couldn't even buy tampons without seeking approval, right? Wendy has been placed under the guardianship of Sabrina Morrissey in 2012. They claim that she has frontotemporal dementia. She says she absolutely denies she has dementia. And honestly, when I heard her in interview, she was the most lucid I've heard her in about 3 years. She was bang on. She was all over it. She said, I do not belong in this living facility. I'm essentially locked up. She's now signed an affidavit asking a judge to end that guardianship. She claims she's regained capacity to function independently. A medical evaluation is scheduled, I think, for the end of this week with a doctor chosen by Williams' legal team. And her attorney has said that everyone in the case has Wendy's best interests at heart. We all expect that the ultimate outcome will be in line with those best interests. And she's only been outside twice in a month. She's essentially a prisoner, right? She's essentially a prisoner. And she did this documentary with TMZ, Saving Wendy. And as I say, it was filmed on a sidewalk below the facility she's at. And it's very curious. Wendy was, to all intents and purposes, portrayed as just this horrible Hollywood gossip, but actually she was revealing real truths about the abuse that was taking place in Hollywood. And I am extremely concerned whether this is some sort of political legal move against her, right? And she went through a horrible period of time. It turned out her husband, who was also a manager, had a baby with another woman, had been conducting a relationship for a very, very long time behind her back. And people really kind of laughed at that, because Wendy had always been the first one to kind of laugh at other people's misfortune. So people were like, well, karma, you deserve that. But she doesn't deserve this guardianship business. It's really weird, right? She says, I am not cognitively impaired. I feel like I'm in prison. I'm in this place where the people are in their 90s and their 80s and their 70s. There's something wrong with these people here on this floor. I am definitely isolated. And she said that her day literally just comprises now watching TV, listening to the radio, watching out the window. I sit here and my life goes by. Her niece reports being interrogated to visit her. When I heard that, it reminded me of the people who are essentially being banned from visiting Tommy Robinson, right? Because they have social media accounts. And Alex, Wendy Williams' niece, said that Wendy has a bed, a chair, a TV, a bathroom, and she's looking out one window at buildings across the street all day. She's there every day, all hours of the day. And it's weird. It's weird stuff. I don't really understand how these conservatorship works. Because remember what happened with Britney Spears? That was pretty awful. Photos are disturbing. It sounds like a care home. Scientology is like that. They're only interested in money by the sounds of it. I have to agree, Kevin. There's a lot of money riding on Wendy Williams. And Simon, I have to agree that we cannot rule out that MK Ultra is still a real thing. It really exists, right? It really exists. And we don't know what she has or has not been subject to. So get well soon, Wendy Williams. You know, regardless of the fact that sometimes I thought you were horrendous gossip, you also told a lot of truths about the filth that is Hollywood, which kind of reminds me of somebody else that I have mixed feelings about a lot of the time. And that is Kanye West. Kanye West. They're trying to blackmail him. They're actually trying to blackmail him. You know, over the last week, obviously, he's been kicked off X, Twitter, and he does say rampantly anti-Semitic, horrible things. He definitely does, right? But they're trying to blackmail him. And the reason that I say that is, check this out, people. I hope yeah, I have. It's okay. I've been and bleeped out the F word. This is Kevin Blatt. Kevin Blatt is a Hollywood fixer. He's a former co-host of Blow the Whistle. And he wrote to Kanye West. He actually messaged him publicly, right? Said, hey, Ye, remember that sex tape I helped take off the market for you in 2012 with that hooker in Vegas? Yeah, this Jew didn't forget about what a horrible performance and small blah you had high on MDMA. Hey, why don't you go F your favorite person in the world yourself? So this is an image from a video that Kevin Blatt managed to stop media talking about. How many other people? These are Hollywood fixers. And now, because he is saying stuff about Jews in Hollywood are coming out. And this is blackmail. I don't care what anybody says. This is blackmail. And the singing artists from yesteryear didn't have this issue. No, George, it didn't mean that they weren't up to stuff, but nobody ever heard about it. Nobody ever heard about it. But this is essentially saying, I have this porn tape of you. I had it hidden. And now you better be careful, because I'm going to show at least one image from it. Right. And so the point is that we know this happens. We absolutely know that these Hollywood handlers and fixers, they do this all the time. OK, but this is a clear warning shot to West that you need to back off. You need to back off and back off now. Yes, healing the silence, doing that publicly and all. Public humiliation is what everyone is usually afraid of when they've done something. Yeah, Rachel, I believe it was as bad, just no social media. Hit the like button, guys. Thank you, Thomas. I absolutely appreciate that. I really do. So yeah, that's fairly horrible. That's repugnant stuff. And I don't know if you've seen this, that police have reissued a mugshot after the woman involved who had planned for her children to become martyrs for a terror group. So Farishta Jamai, let me show you the reissued mugshot. This is unbelievable, right? The whole point about a mugshot is you should be able to see somebody's full image, correct? Do we know that to be correct? Isn't that the point about a mugshot? Well, the lawyer complained. Oh, actually, I've got too many images on. Let me take one away. The lawyer complained, and so the police had to reissue a mugshot, and this is what they came up with. Where is it? What have I just done with it? This is what they came up with for a mugshot. Okay, let me just show you. There it is. There's a mugshot because this woman complained. Okay. Her barrister told the court that she had experienced considerable distress because of an earlier photo showing her face. Tough. Absolutely awful. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry. I can't get with this at all. This is ridiculous. It's an absolute joke. This is an absolute joke. Yes. And the police should not be supporting this in any way at all. Simon said, still would. Behave yourself. Outrageous. Right. What about anybody see celebrity haunt Chiltern Firehouse went up in flames on Valentine's Day? Now, I think that's significant, right? I think that is significant. Let me just show you what images I've managed to pick up. And the reason I think that's significant is to know the history of Chiltern Firehouse, right? Chiltern Firehouse is the celebrity haunt and has been for at least a decade now. Okay, it's in Marylebone near Baker Street in central London. And it was ablaze on Valentine's Day, right? It was ablaze. And that meant that the BAFTA awards party, which was supposed to be yesterday, had to be cancelled, had to be rerouted, couldn't take place there. Around 100 people had been evacuated after the fire broke out. People don't know what has happened. But basically, it was an old fire. It was an old fire brigade. It was decommissioned in 2005 by the London Fire and Emergency Planning Authority. It became a destination of such epic, fashionable appeal that it's hosted probably more actors, singers, models, and statesmen than any other building that I could think of in London. Right? Absolutely. It's owned by Andrea Blaze. Oh, Blaze, as some people pronounce it. Right? Andre Blaze. That's it. It's actually pronounced Balash, but some people call him Andre Blaze, but it is pronounced Balash, right? But anyway, so what's interesting is you literally have people like Gwyneth Paltrow, Harry Styles. It was the place to be. Absolutely the place to be. And Andre Balash also owns the Hollywood Chateau Marmont. All manner of things have happened at Chateau Marmont. Again, a place that is a keeper of secrets for people. But thankfully, nobody was hurt or injured. I just thought it was very, very significant because the Chiltern Firehouse is almost more famous than the king himself. It's huge. Huge. Welcome. What's that? Who is Andre Balash? Well, Marco, he's a man who has a lot of money and has multiple famous contacts. Multiple. He is an absolute fully paid up member of London's most glamorous fast set. His friends are Kate Moss, Cara Delevingne, Rita Ora, etc. Remember another fire in Baker Street, says Squidgy. Indeed. And I want to talk about the World Wildlife Fund. If you donate to the World Wildlife Fund, please stop. They are literal controlled opposition of animal protection. And have you heard about their actual fund, by the way? Not only do they have the bloodthirsty Windsors promoting them, but it would seem that they back a policy that exploits endangered species for economy purposes, such as trophy hunting. And apparently they've been doing it for a very long time, and credit where it's due. I read this in The Guardian. Don't always like The Guardian, but The Guardian's very good on animal stories as it goes. Who, by the way, was the first president of the World Wildlife Fund? Who can tell me for 5? Because I'm going to bring up a picture any second. Who was the first president of the World Wildlife Fund? Anybody know? Does anybody know? Oh, what just happened there? My PDFs just jumped. Oh, no, that's not bringing me what I need. Let me try that again. I very much want to show you this image if I can. Yeah, I'm going to show you. So I go back. No, Aldous Huxley. Josie knows, and so does Sail Away. They know. Absolutely. There you go. Prince Philip was the very first president of World Wildlife Fund. Josie's lovely. She organised a speaking show that I appeared at before Christmas. She's fabulous. And it's always been backed by dodgy people, by the way. David Attenborough as well. King Charles is a patron. And we all know how bloodthirsty the royal family are, okay? And they've been making an absolute fortune and spending a fortune on staff. The CEO, I believe, earns, let me just actually have a look. So the charity, the charity's staff costs, by the way, have increased by 2.4 million to 22.8 million. They have 419 full-time equivalent staff, right? Staff, right? Employed on an average, right? Compared to 392 the year before. So they increased their staff, but they are making submissions which are anti-animal, literally anti-animal, right? They've literally been working to support the trade in polar bear fur, right? At the same time as using images of the bears to raise money. That is what they're doing, right? So it's estimated that there are between 22,000 and 31,000 polar bears left in Canada, meaning the trade accounts for the death of 1 to 2% of the country's polar bears. But the World Wildlife Fund, surely their job is not to be involved in lobbying so that people can do trophy hunting. That's what they're doing. The World Wildlife Fund are doing that. Oh, Sam likes fruit. I used to give them my pocket money. I was a member as a child. Wasn't it shooting an elephant that began the downfall of the Spanish king? Mel's she's a mine of information. They're after the mineral rights in the protected habitat. Sail away knows. She knows. I think it's she, right? Rose Hambury is invited to tea with Camilla. What's going on? Del, what's going on? Didn't he? Well, there's so much stuff. Other animal rights groups to donate to, if that's what you prefer. Vape King, yes. And also be careful for the RSPCA because they also routinely let animals down. But a 2-year investigation has found that the World Wildlife Fund helped facilitate literally the international commercial trade in polar bear furs. Literally helped to facilitate it. This is so inverted. It's unbelievable. It's shocking. Absolutely shocking. Disgusting stuff. Filth. Just like the RSPCA. What's that? Africa faces this problem constantly still. They do indeed. They do indeed. It's bad. We just need to know who's who, don't we? Right? And thank you to Terry, aka Mr. T. Mr. T wrote about the significance of water deaths. Very interesting. Saying, I often listen to your stuff. I saw this on a feed today. We recently had in Scotland the twin ladies in Aberdeen who went missing and both found dead in river 3 weeks later. It's 2 Hungarian sisters. Terrible stuff. The water-related deaths among celebs have been many globally, apart from Khashoggi in the embassy, with time to recover bodies all appearing to be some form of ritual. The time frame to recover will surely affect recoverable DNA or deterioration of evidence, so the crime remains a mystery. And now this guy, Michael Willis, aka David Evans, are these cabal hits or is there a vigilante copycat at work? Now, this is interesting, Terry, because obviously you talk about Michael Willis, aka David Evans. Well, this David Evans went missing after he was last spotted boarding the Dartmouth water taxi on December 16th. His body was recovered from the River Dart on January the 17th. But what's interesting is he's not David Evans at all. He's not David Evans at all. He's actually a former BBC One DJ who was friends with Jimmy Savile, right? And he'd actually changed his name after serving an 18-month prison sentence for possessing 500 indecent images of children, right? As I say, his body was recovered on January the 17th. So, Terry, I do think it's interesting, but I want to ask you all this, right? No, we don't know, Katie, right? We don't know, right? So, but what we do know is this man, as one example, David Evans, has a history of involvement in child abuse in one form or another and was associated with Jimmy Savile, right? We know that. We know that much about this man. So, Terry, but what I think is interesting is that haven't we heard such a plethora of water deaths? We've heard it a lot, haven't we? Now, I'm wondering, just because what happens in media oftentimes is if they find a pattern, they keep repeating it. And is it just that there have always been water deaths and we just didn't hear it before? But after Nicola Bulley was probably one of the major ones, wasn't she? That kind of set it all up. And then last year we heard, I don't know, it must have been maybe between 8 and 10 water deaths we heard in the UK. So I don't know what's going on, Terry, but I thank you for raising up that issue. I really do. Thank you very much. And where are we? Wednesday show is open. I might do something else different to what I did last week. I like this organic, more inspired approach to programming. I've never had an opportunity to do that before, where I'm like, what am I inspired to do? It might be a panel this week. I don't know. That's the great thing about it. And that, I think, is what keeps it fresh. And the thing is that you know what to expect on Monday and Friday, but Wednesday is a mystery, even to your host. Even to your host, it's a mystery to me. And thank you as ever to this week's donators, Chris, Carla, Anthony, and Bingo the dog. Bingo the dog donated. Do you like the evening show? Did you, Fred? Good, good. And we'll be doing it again this Wednesday, right? And just to say, if you've donated, right, and I haven't mentioned you, forgive me. I appreciate you all, including all my wonderful, wonderful patrons at Patreon, talking about which, can I just say this? I've wanted this book forever. Anybody familiar with this book, right? Anybody who knows me knows that I have a pile of books, right, next to me at any given moment in time that I delve in and out of. At the moment, I'm on the approach of completing naming Jack the River. Jack the River. Oh, my God. We've just been talking about water deaths. Oh, my God. What did I just say? So I'm closing in on naming Jack the Ripper. But this came from our lovely Wee Fat Shug. This is an important book. Right. This is such an important book. Yeah, Fred, that was a bit of an interesting Freudian slip, wasn't it? Shug, thank you so much for this, mate. When I have an opportunity to really give you a proper understanding about this, but this is such a vital book, and I really want to get Tim Cohen on the show. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Howie. Thank you, Howard. You're a darling. Really appreciate it. And thank you all. Thank you all as ever. You know, I appreciate you all for being here. I really do. And as ever, don't have to agree with me. You know that, right? You don't have to agree with me. I don't have to agree with you. And we might have we might get stroppy with each other. So that's BS and all that. But we're allowed to. We actually encourage open exchange around here, right? That's what we encourage. Yeah, lots to think about today. You're welcome, Kiwi. Absolutely welcome. So obviously we're closing in now, people. 5 to 11. I'm starting to get more on time with things. It takes a little while to adjust, but I'm getting there. I really am. And what am I looking for right now? Oh, I just have to show you this because this. Oh, I don't know who it's from. I have shows on Friday, but basically it's a viewer who wrote all across his TV license. And I loved it. And I even managed to blank out the F words. It was brilliant, but I must show you it. I really must. Anything that I've missed that I would like to talk to you about? Nope, I think we're all there. I think we're hunky-dory all there. So what about Obama chef pictures? I don't know anything about Obama chef pictures. What's going on? Josie, much love to you too as well, Poppet. Much love to you. Yeah, YouTube is being weird with likes because I can see 1,433 people viewing us right now. Yes, Gina, it flies past, doesn't it? This, of course, is beautiful Sally's imagery, Sonia's mindful thoughts, very much like that. And I want to say, stop the derangement syndrome. It's manufactured to silence us. I thought a lot about the emotional capture Johnny McNeil was talking about on Friday, and it reminded me that I wanted to talk about the derangement syndrome so many of us suffer from in real life that are manufactured and intensified to stop us seeing with clarity and doing something about the real problems. It's essentially a sort of outrage fatigue that people are experiencing. You're probably feeling it. There's an onslaught of depressing news and commentary about political actions, about wars, about disasters, an ever pending feeling of hopelessness and helplessness. And this is one of the reasons I get angry with fake news when people go online and they say 40 people busted into a Birmingham hospital last night. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. And the problem is if you keep saying that, you people on social media, and keep telling lies, when the real stuff happens, nobody's going to believe you. And I have to wonder sometimes whether these people who make these constant, outrageous, no source comments about situations like that, whether they are part of some kind of controlled opposition. Opinion is one thing, right? Opinion is one thing. Me saying I think Elon Musk is a rotten dad is my opinion, right? But somebody saying 40 people broke into an A&E last night is not opinion. That is somebody stating something factual. That is actually a lie. And I think there's a problem with that. They want us helpless, Jan. They want us to feel hopeless. Just sing and enjoy your day, says Jan. I get that, right? I get that. They're not like us. They're not like us. No, they're not. And so I think there's a real problem with that sort of stuff on social media, and we should be really careful about it. And studies have shown that when that misinformation sources are more likely to elicit moral outrage, which will create anger and disgust and will throw you off course. So it will take you away from feeling justifiably outraged about things that are justifiably wrong, such as they want to bring in this assisted dying bill and they want to remove safeguards and they want to remove judges. That requires outrage. That's justified outrage, right? But people lying about how many people have broken into a hospital is a problem. That's just one example. This account on X that I've talked about, which has now been busted, which proves that it claims to be a British patriot and it makes up lies. And it lied that scores of British journalists were arrested in one weekend. And I asked for a source for it and wouldn't give it to me because it doesn't have a source because it's making it up. And it turns out that actually that account is operated from Dubai by an Indian man. Right. So we all know what's going on social media, and Musk amplifies that account. So that's one example. These are clickbait titles. And it's one of the reasons I avoid clickbait titles, by the way, because I don't want to be part of that industry. People are more likely to reshare without even reading articles from these misinformation sites. Outrage is important, but it must have a balance to it. It can be helpful. It can be functional. But if you're constantly in that state, it can lead to conflict and an escalation of political disputes. Psychologically, if you're constantly outraged, which is what GB News is essentially, right, can be very, very exhausting. It's also distracting, not just GB News, Talk Radio, all of them really. They all focus on like creating outrage in you, and it throws you off. It throws us all off. It's distracting. So my thoughts to end today's show is about doing everything you can to avoid that unnecessary state of outrage when something might not warrant it. Too many people are claiming victimhood, sometimes to distract from their own role in proceedings or their own crimes. Outrage is harnessed, weaponized, and used to divide us. In politics, as one example, outrage is regularly used as a political tool to divide groups. We need to focus. We need to separate the wheat from the chaff. What is really important and what won't matter this time next year or this time next week or even this time tomorrow? Is there anything we can do to combat that outrage fatigue? How can people healthily disengage to some extent? I think people really have to figure out that as something is happening, how can I be aware that I am experiencing it right now? Because once you learn how to do it and you practice it, you will be able to catch yourself as you are doing it. And don't forget, these misinformation accounts they're manipulating you. They're manipulating the things that upset you. Yeah, you're upset about uncontrolled immigration. Well, I'm going to tell you a pack of lies about journalists being rounded up and arrested for asking questions about it. Only it's a lie. We need to focus on what these people are doing and why they're doing it to us, okay? Some people on social media are in a constant state of outrage arousal. It's bad for them. Over-focusing on one outrage after another will help no one and will lead to an obsessive, unhealthy, and deranged mind state. You deserve so much more. Social media can be particularly bad when it comes to outrage fatigue. The most outrageous posts, as I say, are amplified. More posts of this misinformation of outrage are shared than of beautiful pictures of our world and acts of kindness. And Deborah did make that point to me last week, and I read her email on Friday, and it was a really good point. And that was in this kind of like 1 minute rant that we're offering to people about things that are wrong. And the reason that I came up with that was because so many people contact me and they're angry. They're angry because they feel helpless. And I thought, how can I stop these people feeling helpless? Let me give them a platform. But Deborah was absolutely right. And that is, we need healthy balance. And so I say again, and that is, if you would wish to record for 1 minute or under something wonderful, fantastic, nice, a random act of kindness on this random act of kindness day that happened, please let me know about it. Please let me know about it. And yes, healthy balance, indeed. Healthy balance indeed. And I just want to thank you all for being here today. Thank you so much to our live and exuberant chatters as ever. Thank you wherever you watch us, whether you watch us live or on playback, whether you're on Rumble or Spotify or X or on YouTube. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you, Jan. Much appreciate that. Mel says, wishing all a magical day. And don't forget to find some joy. Laugh lots. And Jan has been making Mel giggle today. The news can also be depressing. I stopped watching it. Yeah. Be interested to hear about people's spiritual experiences, paranormal. Absolutely. And thank you, Shalini, and thank you, Stephen, and thank you, Randy, and thank you all, and thank you to our two wonderful mods, Crazy Bunny and Soul Sam. We love you. We love you. We love you. We love you. Thank you, Adele. God bless you. Positive vibes to all. And I'm going to end on a quote from Herodotus. I have no idea who he or she was, but he or she said, there is nothing more foolish, nothing more given to outrage than a useless mob. Bear that in mind, people. Be justifiably outraged. Don't allow them to take you into a derangement syndrome, because it's all about taking your eye off the main target. Thank you to all my guests for being here. Thank you as ever to you. Lots of love. And I will, of course, see you on Friday. Love to you all. Have a fantastic week. You deserve it. Take care.